All right, so let's talk about Palantir. We are going to have a Palantir employee join in approximately 8 minutes and talk about their latest collaboration with Ferrari. But before we do that, Palantir just unveiled a really sick video this morning. It's about 8 minutes, and it's a really nice action-packed video of a Palantir employee that you guys probably know, Jack Dobson. He did the AIPCon halftime show with me, building an ontology live while someone is driving in a simulation with Ferrari. Really cool stuff. Here's the video. Let's take a look at it, and then we'll have Jack come on the show and kind of talk about how they're working with Ferrari.
First sector, pushing flat out. I love this first sector. It's probably one of my favorite part of this track.
I'm basically building out sort of the scaffolding, the framework that will take your data and then build it into the application that I'm putting together. I mean, this is 8 minutes of work, right? So
but that's so impressive.
Well, welcome everyone to Austin and welcome to Charles Leclerc. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Great, thank you so much for joining us. We're here to talk about Palantir and Scuderia Ferrari, partners in ultimate performance. What does ultimate performance mean to you?
Everything is about ultimate performance in Formula One and about how fast you are on track. And at the end, it's all down to how quickly you make the decisions.
That's the difference between winning and losing, right? So for you out on track with the team behind you, with all that communication, how does that all come together for you? Like, what does that mean to kind of make the right decision at the right time?
I mean, it's a huge part of our job. The race is from 55 to 70 laps, but at the end, the critical parts in a race are very few. And if you do the wrong decision or with the wrong timings, as you said, it's the difference between winning a race and losing a race.
We're going to kind of put that to the test today. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to showcase that speed and what that means in terms of performance in sort of both of our respective fields. We want to have you running a session on the sim, going around the track. I'm going to be over here on the laptop, building out a workflow that's actually going to build on top of the telemetry that you generate during your session. We're going to have 5 laps on the sim, and then we'll go ahead and review and have a look at how it all comes together. Everyone's recording? Okay, right. Charles, you ready? I'm ready. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. I'm going to start out by building out the geometric track within my ontology so we can actually map your telemetry to that track once I get it. This is going to be pretty critical later because that's going to allow me to actually start mapping events and other sensors, telemetry, all to that same track.
So do you have all the live data at the moment?
I'm going to have the live data when you're done. I'm basically building out the scaffolding, the framework that will take your data and then build it into the application that I'm putting together.
Oh, I like this.
I've gone ahead and actually built out the track in the platform. So now I've got a view of the line around the track. I've got the various sectors, the corners, all mapped within that ontology, breaking out the different sensors from that telemetry. So we're actually going to have our brake pressure, our velocity, our G-forces, and of course the location of the car around the track. And that's going to allow us to basically show this trending over time. The next step is actually to build out the structure of how we're going to take telemetry from the sim and start mapping it to the track and also into logic. So I've got the visualization of the track, I've got the pipeline for your telemetry. I'm going to get deep into writing some logic. We're actually going to build logic in 2 parts here. We're going to have some logic that's basically going to look at the telemetry itself and actually review, okay, what is the change lap to lap? And then we're also going to do a visual analysis as well to basically get a sense of your line across each of those laps. So there's probably going to be some variations. Do you often vary the line between laps, or is it pretty consistent?
No, I do vary actually, and I try different things. So this is going to be super interesting to see the analysis. That's a good lap.
That's the one.
That's
Okay.
the lap to analyze.
What are the areas of improvement we've seen so far? Like where
braking probably is the phase of the corner that I want to improve the most.
So we're at lap 3, which means I need to hurry up through my logic that's going to basically generate the insights from this session. The next stage is actually to then basically build that output of the logic into the ontology, build an application on top. Is this something you would typically do after a session, right? Like go back into the pit, look at the data, work out areas?
All the time. That's basically all I do during a race weekend. It's draw.
So that's interesting as well for Charles to say that after a race, he looks at the data to try to figure out how he can get better. That shows that they're actually trying to use the data that Palantir is creating for them to improve, right? Which is the whole point of this collaboration and ultimately for them to hopefully win more races.
The car register all the data, and then I analyze the data as quickly as possible when I get out the car, because it's super important because we have very little time available.
Yeah. 100%.
So we've got to be on it. but I'm looking forward to this analysis that I'll have.
You are on lap 4. I need to hurry through deploying some of this logic. Okay, so logic is now applied to my ontology. I'm going to use that as a set of building blocks with which to actually build an application. So you can actually review what I've done within the platform.
Last 2 corners.
Last few seconds, it's time to deploy my first application. This is taking everything I've built so far, the structure for the telemetry, the pipelining, the geometry of the track, the logic I've built on top of that ontology, all built into an application you can actually use to drive decisions.
That's the last lap. Money time now.
And how are we looking? Final corner. Okay, app deployed, and done. We're there. Well, just in time, I've gone ahead and deployed, so I think we're good to do some review. A few different steps to this. So we started off by building out pipeline for your data. So basically, this is the pipeline that's going to take the telemetry from your session and actually start translating it into the format where we can actually build what we call a time series, basically like a trace of the data over time, but it's all built into an ontology. So it's like a digital twin of you, the car, the session as a whole. That all means we can actually start mapping that together and actually generating insights at different parts of the lab, right? So, I mean, is this kind of similar? How would you guys look at data when you're coming off the track?
Exactly like that. So we will zoom into this telemetry and take the conclusions ourselves.
But this is the joy of it. So you talked about taking conclusions yourself. Rather than just kind of sitting here and looking at all of this, what I actually wanted to do is build some logic on top of this. So we can basically automatically derive some insights from it. Right?
And have the conclusion straight away.
The end result is something like this. We've now got these notes on the left. So I can actually click in and I can kind of dive into, okay, which corner did this occur at? And you're gonna get some insights on different areas you can improve, right? So you've got things like braking consistency, exit optimization, even like some mid-sector gear change advice.
I'll go with turn 1. Turn 1 braking consistency. I was speaking a lot about braking. During the session, there was noticeable variability in braking points for turn 1. On laps 2 and 4, braking was slightly later compared to other laps, resulting in a wider entry and compromised exit speed. For the next session, aim to establish a consistent braking marker to maintain optimal entry and exit speeds. Consider using the 100-meter board as a reference point. Awesome. That is very, very impressive because that's exactly the conclusion I had while I was driving, in the way that I was very inconsistent with my braking. So this makes perfect sense.
I mean, this is 8 minutes of work, right? So
yeah, but that's so impressive. So when I get out of the car, I have a particular feeling, and but I always try and find a double confirmation of what I felt in the car.
Yeah, like just the data map to what you were feeling.
Exactly.
The next stage of this would be to actually like build on top of it, maybe allow you to give feedback, actually sort of tune the model over time. You could even start to do real-time analysis on like your radio. So if you have like real-time radio messages coming in, transcribe it, map it to that broader ontology we built, allows you basically as you come out the car, you're already going to have some insights. That's basically
that's amazing. I love it.
We can build on top of that foundation that we built in literally the last 8 minutes or so, 5 laps worth of racing. And then we can build from there, whether it's adding audio, video analysis, other sensors, other telemetry. This is just a starting point, right? But
that's really
useful.
I mean, that's super impressive. Really, really impressive. To have those conclusions so early, it's gain time.
Well, hey, maybe some of this will be helpful for this weekend. You never know.
This for sure. This for sure. I'll take that into account.
Well, Charles, 5 laps on the sim, 8 minutes of building. We were trying to show ultimate performance. What do we think? Do we think we did it?
I think we did. And it was super, super impressive to see that in only like 8 minutes, you got to conclusions so quickly. And those conclusions were right and were matching my feelings while I was driving. To have...
All right, folks, there you go. Let's get the employee who was building that ontology live with Charles onto the show. I know this guy. Jack, what's up?
Hey, everyone. How are you doing? Amit, great to see you. It's been a while. It's been a good few weeks, months. How long's it been?
It's been a few months, but you are kind of taking off as a little bit of an internal Palantir celebrity. You're hosting all the AIPCon halftime shows. You're interviewing Sham at DevCon. You're now with Charles. I mean, you're kind of doing your thing here at Palantir.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a busy year. Honestly, if anything, it just makes me more excited for 2025. The only way is up. But yeah, honestly, I think the thing that excites me most, as you well know, is still getting the opportunity to build a lot of these experiences as well. So for people, I'm sure there are some people watching who maybe got the chance to attend DevCon. I'm sure lots of people have watched some of the talks. But what excites me just as much, if not more, than getting to be sort of on camera, on stage, stuff like that, is actually sort of building these experiences. So that's building AIPCon, as you know, like you and I late into the night before, sort of putting that together. And then same for DevCon, literally kind of doing this all again for the first time. And then coming right up to this video, which has been in the works for a while, but yeah, building it right there and then in those crucial 8 minutes. It was quite an experience. So I'm still enjoying doing a lot of the building, but yeah, doing a little bit of the camera stuff is fun as well.
So what did we just watch in that video? You were building an ontology live and adding a data pipeline and all this stuff as he was driving. But can you explain what exactly you were trying to build based on him driving, and where exactly do the insights come in for the driver themselves?
Exactly. It's a great question. So basically the way it works is, and I sort of allude to this a little bit in the video when I talk about kind of building the scaffolding for his data, sort of the framework that his data will feed into. Basically the way it works is that sim, which was obviously there, and we actually ran the whole session, or the 5-lap session, twice just for the sake of filming, but we actually did the build twice as well. It basically meant that then as soon as he's done on the sim, all of the telemetry, and this is obviously it's a simulator program, but all the telemetry from that session can be ported over the network to my laptop. So I do actually have the data. We had a couple of minutes in between to kind of make sure everything built and all that kind of stuff. But what I was basically able to do, and it's actually funny, I do this going into meetings and demos with our customers all the time, where if I don't have access to their data just yet, maybe we haven't been on site yet, or maybe we're just starting a partnership for the first time, what you can actually still do in the platform is build out sort of the framework of all the transformations, the pipelining in Pipeline Builder, the ontology directly from Pipeline Builder. Once you have that ontology, you could even build a skeleton of logic around it, and then your applications as well. You can actually build all of that skeleton before actually feeding the data in. So that was effectively what I did, where obviously I knew sort of ahead of time the schema, the structure of the data coming in, like I knew that going in, but then effectively everything you see built out in the video, which is shortened slightly because obviously the video is 8 minutes, the full build was 8 minutes, but everything you see happening on the screen is happening live. And then basically what we did was feed the data in from the sim, build out all the pipelines, takes just a couple of minutes, and then you literally have the outputs there and then, which is why his Charles' reaction when he sees, and you see it earlier in the video, he talks about kind of improving braking, or there being a little bit of inconsistency in the braking. Right. The fact that we then saw that reflect in the program at the end, that was where we saw that spark from him, where he said himself, I was talking a lot about braking, and then that was exactly what the system picked up on. So that was obviously a sort of bead of sweat moment for me, of course, but yeah, that framework all obviously played out as expected, and yeah, we did that in just a matter of minutes. It's crazy.
Can you talk about the time series data and why that's really valuable for someone like Charles?
Oh, 100%. So they are, again, as he mentions in the video, they are used to looking at that data as a trend on a graph. Like we see that in Quiver, which is a tool within Palantir. We see that you can obviously view that telemetry. You can see multiple sensors alongside each other. You can even start tagging events and other context to that telemetry. They do a lot of that today. Like you, and I've actually done this myself in Maranello with them, where you literally look at the telemetry after a session, and these people that live and breathe this data, they will look at the chart, they'll look at the trends, they'll look at maybe the comparison. So they'll overlay 2 sets of telemetry between one session and another, maybe 2 different setups with the car as well. And they will manually go ahead and derive, okay, like we see kind of what this telemetry is telling me, and then they'll sort of feed that into the next session, the next practice, or indeed if they're developing the car, like the next testing session. So that is something they're used to, as Charles says himself. But the bit that was so compelling was, A, how do I take that telemetry, that time series data, and contextualize it against all of the other different types of data? So obviously
to derive actual insights.
Exactly. 100%. It's all about context and then action as well. And you can get a sense of the ontology concepts here. But firstly, you've got the fact that you're able to map that telemetry into the geospatial world. So you actually start to see position on the track. This is very valuable for someone like Charles, who is obviously thinking about car setup and stuff like that. But most importantly, he's thinking about how he's approaching every sector, every corner, like basically every component of the track. He needs to be able to map those events, those sort of happenings, to the geometrics of the track. And then, of course, not just the context, you've also got the action as well. So the ability to basically translate a load of geospatial data, a load of telemetry, time series data, into something that is very quickly digestible. So literally those driver notes that we see generated by AIP, that basically allows him to sit down and immediately, as you see in the video, get an insight that he can immediately sort of apply to his own driving. So I think obviously it's just the starting point. It's very much like I would then go on to develop this further, but to get to that in a matter of minutes, kind of unprecedented.
No, it's pretty damn incredible. And I think a lot of the reactions we're getting from the chat right here also kind of prove that like it's just amazing to kind of see that take place in 8 minutes. I think that's what Charles is also thinking as well in terms of getting those insights. Last question for you, Jack. Thank you for spending your time with us today. You were at the initial Palantir boot camps when they started that strategy. You just kind of did like a pseudo mini boot camp right there for 8 minutes. Is the reaction you got from Charles similar to some of the reactions you're getting from potential clients in terms of they actually see a working proof of concept and then they get more excited to think about working with Palantir?
100%. Yeah, I think part of the reason we were talking about sort of what I've been getting up to over the last few months, the thing I still enjoy with all the building and all of the presenting and the demoing, it's that moment where people see that first example, especially against their data. That was the thing for Charles. It's the thing for a lot of our customers as well. It's when you sit down at a boot camp and it's not just a slide deck, it's not just a proof of concept, it's something against their data that immediately they can start to map that into their sort of frame of reference, their view of the world. The joy of that at a boot camp is that you can do that in the first, it could be the first few minutes, it might be the morning of that day. And then once they see that, once they sort of build that intuition, it's all then about spending the afternoon or indeed the days subsequently iterating, adapting. And like people, I think, start to see that it's also not something that's set in stone. We build all of our software around the reality of the world today. And obviously it's like pretty obvious that reality is constantly changing. So it's not just about people being impressed that you get to an outcome. It's also about showing just how quickly you can adapt, how quickly you can tweak without then adding hours and days of work. So it's an iterative process, but you're exactly right. This video almost encapsulates the joy of those boot camps. And it's why I still do it day in, day out. I love it.
There we go. As we say in the chat from Julie right here, love Jack Dobson's energy and passion. I also love his passion, and having worked with him, it's really fun to work with him. Jack Dobson, ladies and gentlemen, there's his Twitter. This is the newest Palantir celebrity, in my opinion, that we are going to be hearing a lot more of in the next decade. So please make sure to follow him. Also, he has the best accent ever. So
I've got to, it's the one thing. I live in the US now, but I'm not losing the accent. I'm holding on to that.
I love it. Jack, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Share the video. Keep watching.
Thank you, Jack. Bye-bye.